Sophia, and we've ridden for Shredders for 2 years.
Before we get started, we'd just like to review some Zoom etiquette. Please make sure you mute yourself now and stay muted until we call on you for questions. You can also use the raise hand icon in reactions to ask questions, and you can put your question in the chat if you don't feel comfortable asking it.
Today we're excited to host our first Shredders Adventure Series event of 2020.
Oh, Sophia, sorry to interrupt. I can't quite hear you again. If you don't mind repeating that.
Today we're excited to host our first Shredders Adventure Series event of 2022.
We'll have a series of Zoom calls with amazing female athletes and adventurers. This month, we're hosting Haley Batten today, and later this month, we'll have another Zoom call with Maddie Monroe and Hattie Harden, U23 Trek Factory Racing mountain bike and cyclocross athletes.
Join us throughout the winter for more exciting, inspirational female athletes and adventurers. You can find the upcoming calls on the Shredders website.
So a little bit more about myself. I'm a Murray and I'm 9th grade at Saratoga Springs High School. I love doing multiple sports besides biking. I play soccer for both a travel team and a school team, and I do Nordic and alpine skiing. During the spring, along with mountain biking, I race NICA, and during the summer, I began racing triathlons as well. And I'm looking forward to the Shredders NICA season this spring, as I competed in NICA last season, and I'm excited to have my Shredders mentors and teammates with me. I have a lot of interest in sports, but Shredders also helps girls pursue passions. So I like to play my French horn, and I love hobbies such as cooking and baking.
And a little bit more about me. I'm Sophia Murray. I'm a 7th grader at Maple Ave Middle School, and I'm 12 years old. Last year I raced NICA and I really enjoyed it, so I'd highly recommend it for anyone who's interested. I'm very excited for the upcoming Shredders NICA season. Other than mountain biking though, I'm a soccer player and I've played for Firestorm FC for 2 years, as well as the Mod 9 team for Saratoga. In the winter, I race Nordic for Saratoga and I enjoy alpine skiing with my family. I also really enjoy hiking, swimming, water sports, baking, and playing my musical instruments, the piano and the oboe.
So let's get started. Today, we would like to introduce you to Haley Batten. Haley grew up in Park City, Utah. She started racing her mountain bike at age 9 with her little brother. The Utah area provided her a supportive cycling community. At age 14, visions of professional mountain biking came to her mind when she won her first cross-country national championships. These visions are now a reality for her, and it has been a surreal experience. Biking gave Haley a sense of freedom and independence. Haley is now a student athlete at Quest University in Canada.
In 2017, Haley won the U23 USA National Championship in long track, as well as finishing on the top of the podium in a Grand Prix event in Obertraum, Austria, and in Intermountain Cup Red Rock Rampage in her home state of Utah.
In 2019, Haley finished 3rd in the U23 World Cup #1 and 1st in the U23 World Cup #2 and 1st in the U23 Pan American Continental Championships.
2021 was Haley's breakthrough season, finishing 3rd in the World Cup #1 long track elite women event in Germany. She also finished 2nd at the World Cup #2 long track elite women and 1st place at the World Cup #2 short track elite women in the Czech Republic.
Overall, Haley finished 18th at the World Cup as America's top finishing athlete. Finally, Haley was a top 10 finisher at the Tokyo Olympic Games, finishing 9th. We are so excited today to announce that she will be racing for a Specialized Factory Racing team. We wish her well with her new team.
Without further ado, please welcome Haley Batten. Haley, please introduce yourself to all of our guests. Feel free to correct anything that we may have gotten wrong, and please add anything else you'd like.
Oh, goodness. Well, thank you so much for the introduction. This is probably one of the most professional Zoom calls I've ever been on. So I'm very impressed by you two ladies and your accomplishments as well. Anyways, yeah, I'm a professional cross-country mountain bike racer. I've been doing it for a long time now. I probably started racing when I was 9, which you two mentioned, and it's continued since today, and I'm hoping for a long, happy, exciting career. But yeah, really, it's allowed me to travel all over the world, and I've met some incredible people, and also been able to challenge myself a lot and learn a lot about myself and the world along the way. Um, but yeah, I also am a student at Quest University, Canada, and I enjoy other sports and doing a lot of little things. But more than anything, I hope to answer whatever questions you may have, and just see if I can chat to you about whatever you're interested in.
So I have a question for you. Do you have like a certain training schedule these days, or do you like what's that like for you?
Yeah, so right now is actually a pretty fun time. Starting in after my season ends, I basically pull the plug on training, and I get to really just relax and take my coach basically makes me take a lot of time off the bike completely. So in October, I did a really fun road trip with my boyfriend and drove up the coast from Santa Cruz, California, all the way to BC where I go to school. And that was awesome. Like camping, I went windsurfing, and just spending some time adventuring off the bike, which I also really love, hiking and other sports like that. And then now I've just slowly kind of built into training, and with my school schedule as well, it's kind of just balancing everything and trying to make sure that I can do everything as best as I can. So today, for example, I was in class from 9 to 12, and then I hopped off, got on the trainer. So I did a Zwift ride indoor, since it's pretty wet and cold here and icy on the road, so I can't ride outside. But I did an hour and a half on that, and now I'm here with you, and then I'll probably do some homework and a gym session as well. So just balancing everything. But since it's so cold and winter, I do ride a lot on the indoor trainer, and then I also do a lot of Nordic skiing, alpine skiing, and try and get out running, things like that, to be outside as much as possible and get some endurance in. But that's kind of what January looks like for me.
So I actually have a question. Who was like your biggest supporter along the way? Was there somebody that like always pushed you to do your best, or like, can you tell us more about that?
Oh, wow, that's actually such a good question. Where to begin? There's been so many people in my life, really, and I think that's what makes being an athlete and the ability to compete at such a high level possible. But I'd say my family is definitely my number one supporter, mainly because they introduced me to the sport. And for me, it was never, I never had to compete or perform at a certain level. It was something that we did as a family and enjoyed. My brother did as well, and my dad was racing a bit too. And so it was just, we also did a lot of road trips where we'd go mountain biking Moab and do little bike tours and things like that, where the bike was really something that I learned that it was a way to adventure and explore and go up into the mountains and challenge myself and go up, just explore and meet people and be out with my friends. So early on, when I was like in high school and middle school, my dad was probably like my number one riding buddy. We would go out, like he was after work and I was after school, and we'd bring our headlamps and stuff and just go riding in the Park City Mountains. And I remember like so many crazy adventures with him, like where it'd be getting, sunset, it's getting dark. And one time, like we were ripping down this trail and my dad was in front, and like all of a sudden it just went totally black and there was a big moose like right there. And we almost hit it, and the moose was running around and we had to turn and run around. But we've had like so many moose incidents, like running from moose and like going around like crazy places. But I think that's like my early childhood, just remembering like going out with my dad like every day and riding. And it wasn't a training program really, but because I was riding with him and just it was always something we did consistently, I got pretty fit from a young age. And I think that I was able to race pretty well because of that as well, but I wasn't really following anything strict. I just loved biking and I loved going fast just because that was fun. Like fast was fun, And then I think on top of that, once I did get into racing when I was younger and in like 10 to 12 category, that kind of thing, I was probably the only girl racing in what we called like the Intermountain Cup or the midweek series in Park City. And so I had this whole group of guys that we'd always race with, and I actually raced with them for a long time. I didn't really move into the women's category until I was about like 14 or 15 years old, maybe. So I was like racing guys all the time. And I think and riding with them and training, and we'd go like drive up and shuttle down and that kind of thing, where we'd just ride our bikes and try to go fast and race each other around. But the main thing for me is that they respected me, like they allowed me into that space, and they like challenged me, and we'd race each other, and they'd be like, oh, Haley made the feature, but they wouldn't be all upset that like a girl beat them. It was like we were a group of friends. And so I think they really helped me become the rider I am today, because I wasn't trying to be as fast as the other girls or like climbing or descending. I was just trying to be as fast as my friends and keep up. And so I'd say that like early on, those are my main supporters. But since then, like I've had so many incredible teammates and mentors and just coaches and people in my life that have really guided me and taught me so much along the way, and learning to appreciate those people and give back to those people, because that sort of support and mentorship really goes a long way. So continuing to really foster those relationships is probably one of the greatest thing that you can do long term, just to make life more fun and meaningful, but also to help your career in whatever you're doing.
Yeah, awesome. I want to give anybody else the opportunity to ask questions if you have any. Does anybody have any questions? No? Okay, so I have another question. Like, can you talk to us about like when you're growing up, did you like do any other sports other than I know you talked a little bit about like Nordic skiing and stuff like that, but like did you play soccer or like?
Yeah. So I think one of the earlier sports I played was softball. I don't know why. I liked the softball a lot. And I think we were like the bats team or something like that. I can't really remember. But I played softball. I actually played a lot of tennis too. I never really played soccer, I don't think, or anything like that. I honestly mostly loved like the individual sports and the sports that, in a sense, I guess now I realize they're like the lifelong sports, kind of the adventuresome, like outdoor sports that I'll actually be able to continue to do the rest of my life. So I'd say like hiking, Nordic skiing was a big one for me. So I think Nordic skiing and mountain biking were probably the two when I was like in high school that I actually couldn't tell. Really, I was always like the mountain biker in the cross country world, that I had a really hard time deciding like which one I wanted to do, because I was actually pretty good at both of them. And I loved like being able to compete in the winter and not like be on the indoor trainer like what I'm doing now. I'd way rather be like racing around on Nordic skis. And so I love that. So I'd say those were my two. And then once I kind of like developed this little Olympic dream in my head, I was pretty like set on mountain biking, and that was my thing, and that was the thing that I loved the most. But I've always like done other sports along the way, like windsurfing too. I never competed in that, but my family would always go on a trip to Oregon and Hood River, and we would always go windsurfing. So I took windsurfing lessons like since I was pretty young too. So those are like the few random little sports that I've done. But I do think that like range and having a variety of skill sets is really important. And I think often people try to specialize or think that, because my story says that like I started racing when I was 9, that's the only thing I've been doing and spending all my energy on. But really, like if you can do all these different sports and compete in different things, and that can be like instruments or like learning a language, that'll help you in so many different aspects of your life. And even once you want to specialize in something. So I think that's really important, and it's also really fun.
Lydia and Emma, did you guys have a question?
What was it like when you were racing in the Olympics?
Yeah, gosh, that is a really good question, because it's kind of hard to answer actually, because the Olympics is this crazy thing where everybody can watch the Olympics. Like I grew up watching the Olympics on TV and always wanting to be there and seeing myself there. And that was just like the coolest thing for me. And that vision really started when I was so young. So to actually be living that experience was really surreal and kind of like a time warp thing. it was really crazy for me to realize like how much time had passed and how much hard work had taken me to that place. And so I think overall, like it was really just the most surreal and crazy experience to be there. And I almost couldn't believe it. But everything just happened so fast, you know, like the whole season, you're focusing on doing everything in training, you know, and your strength work and your eating and how you train on the bike and off the bike. And then all of a sudden, you know, the one competition that qualifies for you for the Olympics is already there. And that's like your first goal. And then you have goals after that. So all of a sudden, like I was flying to Tokyo, and there was all this crazy stuff that happened along the way with like COVID testing and like random, like little things where there are so many little logistics and things we had to plan to get there. So to all of a sudden, like to be in this country that I'd never been in for like the most important event that I'd ever been in was just like so crazy. And it was honestly a very just wonderful and special experience that's hard to put into words, because I felt so much love. And I think I just remembered all the people that had been part of that process, and they shared so many kind words and messages of support to me as well. So it was really, yeah, it was a beautiful, you know, I didn't really feel such high pressure, but I felt, yeah, I just really enjoyed and tried to embrace the whole experience. And yeah, it was really cool, but it is very hard to put into words.
Talia, do you have a question?
Yes. So I have a question about like nerves. Like, do you have a time where you got the most nervous, and how do you like calm them and stuff like about that?
Yeah, gosh, it's definitely changed over time how I manage that and how nervous I get. And it also depends on what the event is. And sometimes the nerves feel a little bit different at one day than they do the next. But I think that's probably the most important thing, is first like tapping into what you're feeling. And is it fear? You know, where is those nerves coming from? So I remember like early on, one of my strategies would be the night before, if I was feeling kind of nervous and anxious for the race, I'd be like, well, what am I scared of? That was the main thing. Cause I feel like that's where a lot of, you know, nervousness comes from, is, oh, what am I worried won't happen? Or what am I worried, what bad thing am I worried will happen? You know, because if we knew we were going to win every day, we'd be super confident and ready to go. So I think just realizing, okay, am I scared of losing? Well, why would I be scared of losing? You know, if I don't lose, then I don't learn anything. And if it's easy to win, then why am I doing this? You know? And then second, am I scared to crash? You know, is that what I'm scared of? And I'm scared of, I'm going to slip in a rock garden and really hurt myself. Okay, well, is that logical? You know, like, why am I scared of that? And just walking myself through all these things that I might be scared of the night before, that also really helps. And then I think also being able to visualize the experience the night before the course, maybe just walking yourself through things and remembering how hard you have worked and prepared for that event. Because I think it's easy sometimes to be like, oh, I'm not good enough, I'm not ready for this race. And that also causes a lot of nerves. So to be like, oh, well, I've worked really hard, and remembering those days of training and what you've done to get you to that place, I think will build a lot of confidence and help with nerves too.
Thank
And
you.
Sophia and Zoe, do you want to ask her something?
Yeah. Did you have any like big falls while you were racing or riding?
Yeah, I've definitely had quite a few crashes, but I'm really lucky. I haven't had a concussion, or I haven't broken any bones, so knock on wood. But I think that I'm not sure why that exactly is, but I think I'm very aware of what my limits are and what I'm capable of, and I always try to work up in a way that I think is most effective. And so I'm very aware of like what my skill set is, how good am I on this day? Am I ready to ride this feature? That kind of thing. And I think where people get into a lot of trouble is, although it's really good to just send it and go for it, sometimes I think being aware of your limits and not limiting yourself, but knowing what your ability is very helpful, if that makes sense. But yes, I've had lots of crashes. If I could show you my knees, you'd be able to see that they're just covered in scars. I fall on my knees for some reason. I don't know why that is, but I always crash on my knees. So they're not very, yeah, they're not excellent, but that's okay. They still function. Anyways, yes, I crash a lot, and it's part of the ball game, and I should probably practice crashing well, but it is the sport that I've chosen. I think that's part of why I love it too. I love the thrill.
Lydia and Emma, go ahead.
When are you going to start studying in college?
In college. So this is actually my 5th year studying in college. So I've been in college for a long time, and I'll probably be here for a little bit longer, but because, yeah, did you have one more?
And what are you studying?
Oh, what am I studying? Okay. I'm studying, so it's a liberal arts and sciences degree, which means it's a very broad you take a lot of courses about a variety of things. So that could be economics and policy, or that could be art, or that could be, let's see, science and chemistry. So you can do really everything, so that in the future, once you want to specialize or know what you're interested in, you can take that large amount of that broad understanding that you have to focus on something else. So like COVID-19 is a great example. I don't know if this is interesting, but COVID-19 is a great example because it's a political issue, it's a health issue, and it's a economic issue where it's so multifaceted. So being able to understand that from a variety of different perspectives allows you to help solve such a complex issue. So that's why I chose the degree that I chose. But my focus is on education. So I'm really interested in how the brain learns and consumes information most effectively, so that we can make school systems more interesting, more inspiring, and more motivating, so that students actually want to go to school and can really learn optimally for how the brain works. So I'm interested in neurobiology, neuroscience, and cognitive psychology, and why the brain learns certain ways and how we can make it inspiring for the learning process.
Thank you.
You're welcome. I hope that was interesting.
I actually wanted to ask a question. What's like the hardest course you've ridden on, and why?
Oh, what's the hardest course I've ridden on? That's hard. So there's a pretty legendary course in Mount St. Anne, Canada. It's in Quebec, so the east coast of Canada. And it's like really gnarly. There are some big rock slabs and like pretty gnarly features, but it's really technical and scary when it rains, when it's like really wet. So for example, the rock that's here in Squamish is like granite. It's really grippy. So once it gets slick, for some reason, you can still ride like all these crazy rock faces, but there it's not quite the same. And it is like gnarly rock chunks and huge rock slabs. And the way they're designed is just like so technical. So every year, that's probably one of the courses that like gets my heart rate up. I definitely try to like train at that capacity of technical trail beforehand, so that when I go there, I'm not spending extra energy trying to learn the features, but I've actually done it before. So I always try and level up in my training before getting there. But that course, like no matter what, it's pretty gnarly, and I've gotten better every year, but it's definitely technical. And then there was actually a world championships in Australia that in 2018, I think. And it was also super technical, and just like this loose sand. It had big jumps and like this crazy rock garden and stuff. And I wish I remembered the names, because I feel like one of the rock garden names was like something not good, like, where you're like, oh gosh, this is dangerous, So, but I can't remember. I'm not going to make it up. But yeah, there are definitely a few courses on the World Cup circuit that are pretty technical.
And Sophia and Zoe, do you have a question?
Yeah. What was it like to have your first World Cup win? Like, what did it feel like?
Yeah, that is That's a really good question too. So I won my first World Cup in the under 23 category in 2019. Yeah, 2019. Or wait, I don't know. Anyways, it was a really, really cool feeling. I think mainly because you work so hard and sometimes you're not sure if you're actually good enough, and if that makes sense. Everybody trains so differently, and sometimes you're doing everything you can but you're not sure if it's enough. And even if you believe so deeply that it is, sometimes the results don't show the work that you give, and it's confusing that way. Sometimes you win when you don't think that you're ready, and sometimes you win when you think that you can win that day. It's very unpredictable, and the body is something that is hard to tap into and truly understand. But so I think winning my first World Cup was really that moment of almost relief, actually, like just like, oh, like I did it, like I belong here, like I can be one of the best World Cup racers in mountain biking, and I can be one of, like, on top of that podium. And that's the main thing. Like, my goal in sport has never to be just a racer in the World Cup circuit. I want to be the best. And to me, there's a difference there. And so being able to stand on top of the podium and to not just be on third place or second place, but to win and to be able to do that consistently is a totally different caliber of an athlete. So that moment to me was very, very crucial, I think, and taught me a lot, and also gave me a lot of confidence for continuing with my career in the sport.
So Rhiannon and Naomi put in the chat, what is your favorite bar to eat? So can you kind of talk to us about that?
Let's see. Oh, like during ride, like a riding bar. Yeah. So gosh, let's see. I was on the Cliff Pro team for a while, once known the Luna Pro team, which was like such a cool team to be on, because it was, at the time, it was literally all the best mountain bike women in the world. And I was kind of like this young gun that got to be on the team, and they were like the legends of the sport, like 2 Olympic bronze medalists and like world champions, like all that. Anyways, being sponsored by Cliff Bar was kind of unreal. Like, it was crazy. We got so many boxes of Cliff Bars and like all the snacks. So I definitely have a place in my heart for Cliff Bars. But I also really like making my own rice bars to ride with. And that's probably my favorite thing right now, because you can flavor it your own way, and it's kind of fun to like make your own bars and then be out on your ride and be like, oh, like I made this, and you like enjoy it a little bit more. So anyways, I take like this white like sushi rice, and you can find recipes online, but it's like sushi rice and then a lot of sugar and like coconut cream. But all those like carbs and sugars, that's really what you want while you're riding. You can look up like the little ratios and stuff if you want to nerd out about it. But anyways, it's like sugar, coconut milk, and white rice, and they make like super delicious. I don't know if you had, Thai food is like my favorite, but I don't know if you've had sticky rice with mango. It's a Thai food dessert. It literally tastes like that while you're out riding. So it is so delicious, and you can top it with like peanut butter and honey and like banana and chocolate chips or jam, or I don't know, people do things with like bacon and I don't know, savory stuff, but I like my boyfriend loves Nutella, so he always puts Nutella on them, but it's like build your own little creation. So that's probably my favorite.
And we can second your opinion about Cliff Bars, because we had Katarina Nash as one of our shredder advocates, and she was on our program last year, and she sent us like 8 boxes, like big boxes of Cliff Bars that we had during our season. So we were also big fans of Cliff Bars. And then Georgia also came in. We met Georgia up in Vermont this summer as well, and she was able to speak to us and ride with us. So I think, are those 2 of the legends you were speaking of?
Yes, that's exactly right. You guys know the legends. Yeah. So when you go back, like zoom back to that question where you're like, who are people that in your life that like that team, and the people on that team were definitely part of that for me. And I hope they provided that for you as well. I think Katarina and Georgia are 2 like very incredible people, not just athletes. They perform at a high level, right? Like seriously, but then they're like very genuine, giving, really kind people. And that's something that you can choose to be. You can be a great athlete and an absolute jerk. and perform at a high level, but you can also be like, try and be a kind person, and that's your choice to choose, really. And I think they really highlight that quite well.
Ruby and Piper, do you have a question?
When do you have time for school?
Yeah, that's hard. No, I think school is really important. So I try to really block it into my day, but it is hard sometimes when riding your bike's a lot more fun, that's for sure. But no, I think I definitely have a lot of requirements, assignments due and presentations and things like that. So I just take my calendar and I just block out time. My calendar is a very, very useful tool to me. So I think it's helpful to schedule and plan your time, because then what you're actually capable of doing that day. And sometimes you think you're capable of more than you actually can do. Time flies, that's for sure. So make sure, I stay on track of everything and block out what's absolutely necessary. And for me, the two things that take priority are my schoolwork and my training. So that goes in first, bright red on my calendar. I have to make sure that I meet the demands of both of those things. And then, throughout most of high school and stuff like that, things have like, hanging out late with friends and that kind of stuff takes second tier to that. And I think it's very important to have relationships. But if you want to do all the things, sometimes other stuff has to sacrifice, for sure. And you just have to choose what's important to you and make sure you know what that is.
Thank you.
Mm-hmm.
So I was gonna ask, do you have any like pre-race like rituals or like superstition kind of things?
I don't really. I'm not a super superstitious person, but I do have like a routine to my day that helps me prepare. Like I have a playlist on Spotify that I listen to during my warm up, and I always write with gold Sharpie. And I know, like, what annoys me is everybody writes with silver Sharpie, like all the time. It's like the number one Sharpie because it looks like it works on black and stuff like that. But why choose silver when you can choose gold, right? Like who wants to be in second all the time? So I'm really frustrated with that. So I use gold all the time. I actually I get a little upset when somebody hands me like, like I'm signing a black hat or something, and they're like, hand me a silver Sharpie. I'm like, oh, like, I think I have another one. Like, I like don't want to take it because I feel like it might be, might put me in second instead of top of the podium. But that's just probably the rest, I think, is just up to me. I'm not really, I think the rest is up to me. So I just do all the other things. But other than that, I do have a race sports bra as well that I wear. And if socks are labeled left or right, I make sure not to get that wrong. Those are the two things. Like on race day, if I messed up which sock was left or right, that would be a bummer, right? Anyways, that's probably it.
Yeah. Were you in Tokyo? Were you at the opening ceremonies?
No, I was not. So the mountain bike village was actually 3 hours away from the like a regular athlete village. We were in this little town called Izu, I think. And so it was literally just, we call it like mountain bike summer camp, because it was literally like these little lodges and only mountain bikers were out there. So, and then the track riders did come later. But anyways, it was a 3-hour drive and 3 hours both way. And then the event itself is like 3 hours plus, like walking around on your feet. So although like it would have been really cool to be part of, it was definitely so close to our event and such a demanding trip to do that. The preparation for our race was more important. But it was super weird, like watching the ceremony. We did watch most of it like on our TV. And that was weird. Like we're in Japan for our Olympics, like watching it, like, oh my God, this is the the opening ceremony for the Olympics that I'm at, like I watched the opening ceremony so many times, but I'm watching it on the TV for the Olympics I'm going to be at. And like, I'm not there, but that's kind of okay, because like, that's kind of cool too, this is my Olympics, so that was cool. But no, I wasn't there. It would have been cool to be a part of, but COVID and stuff, it was definitely a bit of a unique Olympics, that's for sure.
And Sophia and Zoe, you want to go?
Do you have like an Olympic kit or like a medal that maybe you can show us?
I don't actually. So I saw that you mentioned that, but at school I didn't bring everything with me just because most of my stuff's in Santa Cruz, California. So I don't have any of that stuff. I apologize. I have a very minimalist things here at school, but I'll send you photos sometime or something, or maybe I can FaceTime you and show it to you another time.
Okay.
Lydia and Emma, do you have another question?
So when you were at the Olympics, like, did you, like, what do you do when you weren't like when you weren't racing?
Yeah, wow, that is a great question. Actually, a lot takes place leading up to the event because your body and your mind really requires a lot of preparation to perform on that day. So really every World's Cup race, like I have a whole plan that week of like what my training is, and then kind of little routines of how I recover, getting massage, making sure, I eat the right meals leading up to the event. So there's a lot of little things that take place all week where you're actually kind of busy, but there's also a lot of chill time, like compared to what I'm doing right now, where it's like school, like train, like school, train. There, it's kind of like wake up, like have my breakfast, like go out on my nice ride in Japan, like then come back and just like put my legs up, get a massage, like eat a snack, that kind of thing. So it's pretty much like rest, train, and you're really maximizing, like making sure your body is really peaking well and fine-tuned, and that you don't overdo anything, but that you're also like your body's opened up and ready to compete, but like you are rested and you are peaked for the day that counts. So there's a lot of little things and logistics, like we had to take a bus to the venue, which was like I think it was only like a 30-minute drive or something, maybe less, but the bus took like an hour. So there was all this like strategy of like bringing your bike out and like getting on the bus. So the Olympics is very different from any other event because there's so many logistics and little things that are taking place all the time that you really can't predict in advance. Like we took COVID tests every single day and all that kind of stuff. But other than that, it's really, just train and rest and then make sure you're mentally and physically prepared for the race day.
So I was gonna ask, how much more difficult is the competition now that you're racing like in the elite category?
Yeah, gosh, it is full on for sure. I think like I was actually really lucky because my year in the under 23 category, which is the category, so it's like junior, under 23, and then the elite category. And my U23 category was like stacked. Like there were some strong girls in that category that are showing now to be really strong as well. So it was like me, Loana, who's winning. I don't know if you guys follow the World Cup races, but like, yeah, Loana, Laura Steiger, Evie Richards, Kate Courtney, we were all racing together in under 23 and just like boom, 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 like going hard, like racing, like we were doing lap times as fast and sometimes faster. Like I know when I won my first under 23 World Cup, my lap times were the fastest of the elite women as well. So you can kind of compare a little bit, and we do one less lap, so it's a bit different. But anyways, jumping into the elite category, it is like so stacked. Like it's maybe there were like 5 riders under 23 that were really strong, but in elite racing, there are like 10 women that could win on the day. So you don't know who it's going to be, and everything you do, like right now I'm in my main building phase. It's like, am I sleeping right? And am I eating right? Am I doing my gym work? Am I like doing my meditation and breath work and all this like little stuff that's like, not only do I have my basics dialed, like my sleep, my training, and my recovery and my fueling, but like am I doing things to get that 1% edge so that I can win? You know, what is everybody else doing that I'm not doing? What am I doing that they're not doing? So in elite racing, it is you are investing yourself full on to be one of the best in the world. And that takes a lot of work, and you never really know, you know, if it's enough or if you miss something or something like that. So yeah, it's crazy, but it's also, I think, sometimes simpler. You can overthink it too. I think sometimes just enjoying the process and riding your bike well, and yeah, just giving your best to an adventure that you enjoy is sometimes enough, you know. Like sometimes you don't need to have, you know, the lightest little piece on your bike, or you know, you forgot the meal that you needed to eat every day, or you had a different playlist than you thought you did. I think it's easy to get caught up in these 1%, although they matter, but also sometimes the basics are the most important.
So Maddie asks, do you become friends with your competitors, and do you like talk to them at the start?
Yeah, that's a great question. We do, totally. Yeah. I think sometimes, yes, it's super challenging when like you want to win the race and you know that person's kind of standing in your way, you know, too, and you're like both want the same thing. But at the same time, because of that, those are the people that understand you and your lifestyle more than anybody else, right? Everybody on the start line are the people that truly understand how hard you work every day, what you invest to the sport every day, how, you know, the travel that it took to get there, and what you're mentally and physically preparing for. So I think of any people, you know, even those closest to you, like families and friends that think that they understand what you're doing to prepare for your job, those are really the people that really know. And I think that's where a lot of respect and just camaraderie can come from, because everybody there really truly understands, you know, what it takes. And it's also a similar group of people, you know, in the sport. You all, you know, love adventure and you love riding your mountain bike, and so you have a lot of things in common, and there are some really, really cool people in the sport. And that's why I like mountain biking so much, because the community is awesome.
Can I just ask a question, Haley? You're speaking about the competition, like it's a friendly competition, but it's also very competitive, of course. And this was an Olympic year, and there were only a certain amount of US spots. Can you speak a little bit about what it's like during an Olympic year and how that might change the atmosphere of your start line and your kind of Team USA dynamics?
Yeah, it's interesting for me because I don't have a lot to say on that, only because I was kind of I was the youngest rider on the long team, and honestly nobody was really watching me, if that makes sense. Like they didn't really, I think they had like the other 5 women that were on the long team, I think they were so focused on like them because they had all been racing elite and it was my first year elite, that they were like really like it's that's a good question, because it's really challenging. Like Olympic year is not, it's not just a bike race win, you know, like I was saying that, you know, I want to win the race and so does everybody else on the start line. But like the Olympics is something you only get once a year. And it's also an experience that so many people want to have. So it's not just like a performance that, and you get another bike race the next weekend. It's like, this is like an experience that everyone gets to call themselves an Olympian. It only happens one year. Maybe you're at the end of your career, or maybe like mountain biking gets removed for the Olympics and you never get that shot again, you know? So it has a lot of personal value to a lot of people. And I think that's what makes it so hard. Like no matter how hard you try to love everybody and like want everybody to go to the Olympics, like there's only, like for us, luckily we had 3 spots. So that gave a lot of people that opportunity. But the fact of the matter is like not everybody can go. And that's why it's so cool. And that's why it's such a high level event. But for me, like I didn't actually, I like still loved everybody and had great friends going to the Olympics and like didn't have a problem. But like for a lot of people, yeah, I mean, you're going like head to head with another person, and maybe one race was the decider of whether or not you got to go to this dream that you've had since you were like 9 years old, you know? So it's really challenging, and it's hard to make that not personal, so it's tricky. I don't have, it's really challenging, and relationships are all part of it, and you have to decide, am I are these people going to be my friends, or are they going to be my competitors? And sometimes that line does have to be drawn, but it is hard when you're human and you want to, love everybody and give everybody the Olympic Games experience. So yeah, it's a tricky situation.
Thanks, Aileen.
Mm-hmm.
Lydia and Emma, do you have a question?
How did you get into the sport biking?
Yeah, so my family did it a lot when I was growing up. My dad was doing some races, and my mom also enjoyed biking. So my earliest memories are probably like going on little camping trips to like Moab or something like that, and just riding around all over the place with a bunch of friends. But I think I actually learned how to bike in Switzerland, sorry, because my family was living in Germany. So my earliest memories aren't actually in Europe, learning how to bike and stuff like that. But yeah, I think just biking, and specifically mountain biking, my family was never really into road riding or something like that. It was just like part of what we did as a family. We'd go out and go ride our mountain bikes together, and that was something that kind of brought us together, and we could explore places and use it as a tool to commute through town to go to the grocery store, or like go on a really cool like touring trip. We did one through the Czech Republic along the Iron Curtain, so a very historical and really like cool trip, and I think I was like 5th grade for that. So I learned a lot. It was in a way to like go out to a place and really experience the culture and see, and the bike can take you so many places, and it's better than being in your car, really. Have you ever like commuted to school by bike versus the car, and you're like, oh my gosh, like I feel so happy right now, like I saw my neighbors, the breezes in my hair, and like when you get out of the car you're like, oh, I got stuck in traffic, blah blah. Anyways, it's like so much better to ride your bike, and I think that's what I learned from a young age. And the competitive side of it kind of came later, when I realized that like I like to go fast, and I like to have this competitive fire inside of me. But more than anything, the bike at the simplest version of is really just something that can help you mentally, physically, builds communities, and make the world a happier place.
Thank you. Yeah, last year we biked to school every day unless it was too cold or there was too much snow.
See, that is the best thing. That's amazing. Cool.
Sophia and Zoe, do you have a question?
Yeah. What are your 2022 goals, and are you aiming to win the next Olympics?
That is exactly right, actually. No, so when I was young, my goal was that I would win 5 Olympic gold medals. And then I realized that I had like this plan in my head that I was going to race up as a junior and be so fast that I would race a lead. And then I would like be able to, I had like it all calculated. And then Rio came along, and I was like, definitely not going to those Olympics. And then I realized that like it's way harder than you think it is. Like when I was a kid, I was like, oh yeah, I'll win everything, I'm just the best. And you realize like, no, it's actually really, really challenging, and it'll take a lot to win something. So right now I hope to win Paris. I think that'd be really, really cool. And I know it's going to take a lot of hard work to get there. But that is my goal. And in 2022, I actually really want to shoot for world championships. I think that would be really cool. I've never performed at world championships very well. So I think that's like my main goal for the season. And then other than that, I just want to show some consistency, and I think just build as an elite rider in general. I think there's a lot of things that highlight the difference between being an under 23 and being an elite, and that can be the style of racing, the type of how you pace, how you fuel, like being really in tune with those details. So I think not just the performance sides, but I want to develop as an athlete that is an elite rider. And so I think, yeah, that whole kind of version, multi-dimensional yeah, athlete that I want to become is kind of a focus as well.
Speaking of multi-dimensional athletes, Haley, Maddie had a question. She was asking if you could, if you've raced the BC bike race, and if you did, what it was like.
Oh my gosh. So I haven't raced the BC bike race, but I like really want to. And I actually put it on my schedule for this year because it doesn't conflict with any other event. So I would really like to. Who asked that question? Okay. Have you done it? Do you know somebody that's done it?
I haven't done it, but I really want to do it by the time I graduate college with my dad.
Okay, cool. Yeah. How old are you?
I am 12.
Okay, rad. I think the BC bike race would be amazing. Like, especially just since I've ridden so many of the trails and like type of terrain that course is on, I know it would be like so technical, but also so beautiful and like so cool. So it's definitely on top of my list. But I have done the Swiss Epic, which was a 5-day stage race in Switzerland, and it was like 8,000 feet of climbing every single day, and I think about like 3.5 hours every day. And going into it, I actually didn't know I think it was either 5. I think it was 5 or 6. I think it was 5 stages. Whatever the number was, is I thought it was 1 day less, and then I looked at like the list, and I was like, oh my gosh, it's actually 5 days. Like, okay, wish me luck. And I had never done anything like this. I'd never trained that long, that consistently, nothing like that. And I was doing it with my teammate at the time on Specialized. She was like, her name's Anna Kalongvad, and she's like multi-time world champion, like 5-time marathon world champion, and has won every single one of these epic series events. And so she's like really good at this. So anyways, I was doing this Swiss Epic with her, like chasing her down, like, oh God, like dying. I think I got like my 20-minute best power, my hour best power, my 1.5-hour best power in that race. It was just like every day I was like max. Anyways, it was super, super cool. It's probably one of the most rewarding things I've ever done, because after day one, you're like, oh my gosh, that was so hard. Like, I don't know if I can do another one. And then you go out and you do it again. And then you're like, oh man, my legs are so tired. I don't know if I can do another one. And then you do it again. And we won actually every single stage. So it was like really hard, but it was like, it totally changed my perception of what was possible, like with the human body. And so ever since then, I was like, yeah, it's totally changed like what I think is possible. And yeah, like how literally your limits are all in your head, and that race like full on showed me that. And so it was really cool. So I think that if you can do the BC bike race, that would be a very, very cool experience.
Could you just tell us like a little bit more about your new team that you announced today, like what you plan to do with them and that kind of stuff? Yeah. So last year I was on Trinity Racing, which was awesome. It was kind of like a young, hip, fun development team. So we had racers that are from, it was mainly a road racing and cyclocross team. And so I learned a lot from them, because they kind of, in mountain biking, you kind of get in these bubbles of teams that have been in mountain biking for so long that everybody does things a certain way. And that team came in with like a totally different perspective of how things are done. And I think that just made me think outside the box a little bit and think about just different strategies that I just hadn't thought of before with any other team. So I think that team really helped me learn a lot and be on a low stakes environment where I could kind of just create my own pressure and do what worked best for me. And it worked out quite well. And now I'm back on Specialized Factory as a result of some really good performances that I had last year. And this team is just very aligned with seeking excellence really at everything. You know, we have really incredible mechanics and staff and, you know, physio, so people that do massage, and people that are cooking, and just managers. And so everything that they're doing is very, very high quality and very professional. So I think with that team, I'll just really be able to have the support that I need to not just become a World Cup winner, but to do that consistently, and have people that are supporting that and like handling the highs and the lows at a really high caliber.
So no, I'm really excited. My teammates are also, I think every one of my teammates is a world champion besides me. So they've all won world championships at some point. And I really believe that being part of a group of people that will challenge you and that are better than you at things is really important. And I've actually been able to do that with probably every team that I've ever been on. I'm surrounded by people that challenge me and that make me work harder and that make me set bigger goals. And I really think that this team will help me do that. And it'll also be a lot of fun. There are really good people on the team, and our equipment's really awesome. So no, I'm really looking forward to it. I think it can be a good season for sure.
I have one last question for you. Like, if you were to have like this ideal mountain biking course in your head, like what would it be? Like, do you like the more techy stuff or the flowy? Like,
yeah, that's hard to say because there are actually so many courses on the World Cup circuit that I already like love. But they're probably like the more technical ones. Like I love that. I love when it's very demanding, both uphill and downhill. Like I have a hard time when a course is like finishes on a descent. So you're not like, you don't feel like you like really just gave everything out there or something. And you're like kind of at the rested point of the course. So you're just like finished and you're like, oh man, did I really give everything? So I love when the hill is like, you have to like leave it all out there so that you left everything. And then I love when it's like so technical that like not everybody's that good and you have to like be so on it, So I like when it's just like the whole thing, you have to be focused, like every single second, you just have to be like on the line and so in tune with your body and your bike and the trail and everything. So, and courses that like, honestly, one of my favorite courses, the one that I have done well at mostly is Nove Mesto in the Czech Republic, because it has like these big rock gardens that you can just like go so fast through. And then it has like these swooping corners. So like, it's very technical, but the flow of it is like so fun. There are little jumps and rollers and like steep route climbs and like all this stuff. It's like so hard, but it's so fun at the same time. And then when it gets like wet and like so gnarly, it's like crazy. But that chaos is like, that is awesome, right? That like makes it so much more exciting. You don't know who's going to win and somebody could crash or like break something, and it's like, so yeah, it's just so unpredictable. And that's what makes mountain biking for me so cool. Like swimming or something I would have a hard time with because you're just like, laps on the pool, just like I love that every course is different and that I have to have a different ability, at every race course. Sometimes it's a steep climb, sometimes it's flatter climbs, sometimes it's rock descents or drops, sometimes it's rock gardens that you have to ride through or technical rooty climbs. And so having like a range of skill sets and being able to adapt to the weather, whether it's hot or dry or wet, and choosing your suspension setup and your tires, all these types of things, to me it's exciting, and it's being able to handle the unpredictable really, really well. So I don't think I could design a course because I like when it changes and I like all these different challenging features that aren't up to me, but my body has to adapt to whatever the challenge is at the time.
We don't want to take too much of your time. So does anybody else have any final questions? No? Okay. Haley, thank you so much for joining us today. We really had fun listening to all your stories, adventures, and advice. We were really excited to meet you, and we wish you the very best for your race season and beyond.
Thank you, ladies, so much. It was a pleasure to chat with you all, and I'm so glad I got to learn just a little teeny bit about you as well. So seriously, feel free to reach out via email or message me on Instagram. I'm happy to answer any other questions, or if you need anything. That's my role, I feel like, is to give back the advice that I've learned from the mentors in my life. So yeah, just let me know if you need anything.
Thank you, Haley.
Thank you.
Yeah, thank you
for joining us. Nice to see you, everybody.
Thank you. Thank you. Bye.
Thank you. Bye.